Magento 1, the pioneer in e-commerce platform, appeared around, must have been turning up around kind of 2011, 2012. It kind of rose to prominence. I remember working with, I think Magento 1.4 was the first version that we integrated with. The API changed a couple of times in its evolution to 1.9, which is where it exists today. Of course, after the Adobe acquisition, they reduced Magento 2, but it's off a completely different code base. So if you're watching this, it's because you ended up on Magento 1. It's obviously end of life now. There's no shortage of issues that is causing for companies, and probably at the point where you need to start, well, you're way past the point where you need to start thinking about your tech roadmap to get out of there. So where we sit and where we've helped companies, particularly in the UK, this was happening a lot about 3-4 years ago, was companies have really built their whole back office, their back end systems inside of the Magento platform. It's kind of a follow on from OS Commerce, where it really was with the developer to go and build and extend the platform to service all the different functions of your business. A lot of the clients we've worked with moved their purchasing into Magento. They certainly used it for product management, and they were certainly using it for inventory management and order fulfillment. And so we work with a lot of companies on Magento 1.4 through to 1.9, and we were foolish enough to build our own Magento plugin that sits within the PeopleVox architecture, which is hosted on AWS. So that's installed on our side, and really what I wanted to talk through here is the like an overview of that integration. The documentation's a little bit old. It hasn't changed since 2017, which is when it was initially going end of life. I'm just going to talk through kind of the imports and exports of data that are available to you. What we found with the Magento 1.x connector was it made sense to cover certain transactions, but there were also other transactions that clients wanted to be way more custom than we're in a position to support by developing it ourselves. So think of this as like really covering the basics that you need, and then obviously there are additional bits that you may want to layer on top. So let's roll into that. You've obviously got, so first of all, we've got an introduction. This just talks through exactly how it's architected. The main transactions are that we import product data from Magento into PeopleVox, which means you can use Magento as the product master. We import the customer data, which actually is required for the sales orders and for printing shipping labels and address information and passing that on into the shipping API. We export inventory changes via event subscription, so that's close to real time. It's triggered as inventory changes are made. That was really important for Magento 1 because it didn't like us polling for information, so those event subscriptions are really helpful. We also export shipment creation, so we receive sales orders, create shipments, which has got the item and then what was picked against it. And then we also export back the tracking information. So typically with the PeopleVox integration, we sit in between the e-commerce platform, us, and then we've got the shipping API. So PeopleVox is kind of sitting around in the middle. This document number 1, explains the import and the export, and what configuration options you've got. The maximum frequency for exporting information to Magento is every 3 minutes. There you go. And that will vary depending on how you've got your Magento infrastructure architected. In addition to that, there's a breakdown of how the inventory management works. So within here, it actually explains, well, this is product and inventory management. So it's got all the product information. It explains the API methods that we use. The reason this is included is so you can identify anything that you may have customized that could cause us a problem with configuring the standard plugin. What we'd usually do is configure our plugin on a PeopleVox QA account and test that against one of your sandbox account that is configured as per your life. So yeah, it's got detail on the product updates. It explains limitations around the integration. Explains that you need to turn on stock management in order for us to send inventory levels. So yeah, there's a lot in here, and it also explains when the activity that occurs that makes inventory level changes. From an order management perspective, there's obviously a lot more to think about. So this covers the order and customer import. Some of these extra things in here, this ability to put orders on hold, whether or not when an order gets cancelled, it gets cancelled and deallocated in PeopleVox. Some of this is actually pretty advanced, like more tightly integrated order management logic. And Magento 1 was pretty good for writing this type of integration. Because it was open source, we had a lot more flexibility. And the API is pretty good eventually through its evolution. So this is like the standard customer field mapping. Obviously, we can do more custom mapping, and we capture that as part of the onboarding process. So you actually fill in a form that asks you what fields you want mapped where, and then we configure that for you. So it's fully configured by our team and managed by us, which is one of the advantages. Doesn't require anything to be installed on the Magento side. We also cover the shipping options. They need to be, this is important, configured the same in Magento as in PeopleVox all the way through to your shipping API system. It can be fun sometimes making sure all of those different parts match up. So yeah, that's the order management piece. And the final document you've got actually is just around troubleshooting, what it does in case of errors. Just a couple of pages on that. So yeah, all of these documents will be made available in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're evaluating PeopleVox, they'll be available to you as a PDF that you can have a look through. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to run through this with us, and all the best in finding a way off Magento 1. And the reason that we're continuing to work with the platform is brands are seeing that they can transition to a WMS with their e-commerce platform, keep the WMS to maintain the inventory and the order fulfillment, and then use that to buy them some time to focus on the front end. And that next re-platform project, and it's 2020 when we're recording this, that could go in so many different ways now. There's so much interesting technology that is starting to mature within the e-commerce space. It's just super exciting time to be evaluating this. So thanks for your time, and if you've got any questions, please get in touch.